any behaviors or gestures, mannerisms that might clue you to the fact that they could be Korean?
High intelligence, a lot of competition for being the best, maybe almost to a little like perfectionism. I feel like, I don't know whether it's just the pop stars, but some people are like so beautiful, they look like dolls. Like all of a sudden, it seemed like 5 years ago, you saw like Korean performers everywhere. But surprising for such a small country, like I said, to have such a big export in the entertainment business. Not sure how they pull that off, but...
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Sean. So recently I visited the United States to see my family and some friends, and while I was there, I asked many people around me, friends and family, how they distinguish South Koreans from other Eastern Asians. We talked about appearance, style, mentality, cultural things, habits, and behaviors. It was a very interesting interview, and it was coming from people who have never visited South Korea with the exception of one person. So it was really interesting to hear their perspectives and to see how South Korea is represented in America. Also, if you're currently studying English and you're looking for a structured way to learn, I recently launched my course, Sean의 살아있는 영어. Click the link down below to watch a free sample lesson. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin this video. Hi, please tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Pat, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
My question for you, Pat, aka Mother. When you see someone who looks like they might be from East Asia, how would you distinguish whether or not they might be South Korean or not?
By height, maybe skin color or tone, and face. Well, generally people from the north around the world are lighter skinned.
True.
So people that I've seen and known, they're very light, and even my skin tone are lighter. And I feel like, not 100%, but I do feel like their faces are all wider than like Chinese people, and they're taller. So I can just tell by that, mostly.
Hey, I'm Andy. I'm from Pennsylvania. It's a little bit complicated question. In America, at least growing up, I was much more aware of Chinese and Japanese because those were sort of the East Asian cultures that were presented to me. And so when I see a Korean person, a lot of times I'm sort of like almost triangulating between there and like being like, okay, well, there are certain social behaviors that kind of remind me of Japanese and like sort of the importance of social structure and hierarchy, punctuality, attention to dress, and things like that. But there's also this...
Not to say that that's absent in Chinese culture, but that's very exaggerated, or rather noticeable.
In the set of...
In Japanese and Korean culture.
Yeah, within the set of East Asian cultures, the Japanese are the most like that, right? But then there's also more of like a standard home life sort of that you sort of see more in Chinese culture, where there's like, okay, the family unit is very important and things like that. And then physically, they of course look very East Asian, but there's the particular aquiline shape of the nose. Often if the people are a little bit taller, I think maybe they're Korean. Also high cheekbones.
Yeah, right.
Very strong face, you know, almost like it's almost like the East Asian version of someone from like northern Italy, almost in my mind. That's sort of how it kind of looks to me.
Hey, how's it going? What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Arthi. I am from Philadelphia, but originally I'm from Virginia, which is another U.S. state, and I grew up near Washington, D.C. There's just a Korean look. I grew up in an area with a lot of Koreans. Like, I had Korean neighbors when I was a kid. So I've got a sense for it. The culture is extremely distinct. The skincare, obviously, you know, that's become really trendy. So I notice Koreans tend to have very good skin.
True.
More interest in like fashion and appearance.
My name is Sam, and I'm from Los Angeles. Well, first, let's just start with physical appearance. I think typically when I think of South Koreans, I find them to be quite stylish, right? I think they're dressed very intentionally, and so even in the summer months, like even when it's hot, they'll probably be wearing something stylish, something drapey, right? I think of the men, I think about the haircut too. I think in South Korea, you know, from what I've understood, they really popular is kind of like the two-block cut, right, for
Yeah.
men. And so you see a lot of probably K-pop stars and just other celebrities, male celebrities rocking that cut. So sometimes if I see that, then tells me this person could be Korean.
Hey, how's it going? What's your name? Where are you from?
My name's Hannah, and I'm from Tomball, Texas, outside of Houston. Koreans have like lighter colored hair sometimes.
Okay.
Like they're more stylish, they're more fashionable, and they like to experiment with things like that. So when I watch K-dramas, like I've noticed like there's some girls that have really nicely like kind of like darker brown hair, and it looks really nice on their skin tone.
Any behaviors or gestures, mannerisms that might clue you to the fact that they could be Korean?
High intelligence, a lot of competition for being the best, maybe almost to a little like perfectionism. Very stylish. I feel like, I don't know whether it's just the pop stars, but some people are like so beautiful, they look like dolls, like almost like that to me. Surprising such a small country has such great output and ingenuity.
Agreed. Hey, how's it going? Tell me your name and tell me where you're from.
Hi, I'm Dominique and I'm from Philadelphia.
So when I say South Korean people, what pops into your head?
K-pop, yummy food, stylish, luxury, and technology.
I want to dive into some of these. No pun intended, dive in the pool. Can you be more specific about food?
Koreans have like a soul food almost going on with the kimchi and just like the heritage behind that and the culture behind that. There's a lot of good fusion Korean food in America, at least. I think it goes really well with Mexican food.
Oh, so you've been noticing a lot of Mexican-Korean fusion.
Yes.
Everybody, this is my sister, by the way, just chilling in the pool. Any like specific dish you had that like just knocked your socks off?
There's this place in South Philly that does it really well. They throw some kimchi on the taco. It's just really good.
Culturally, I think if I see them do certain gestures, like maybe this, the heart.
The heart.
Yeah,
Bling,
like
bling.
yeah, seems Korean to me.
Why does no one else do this? It's like so genius. This is a heart.
Yeah, it's a little heart. Certain gestures, like if they want you to come here, they might do this. You know, whereas like in Western culture, they'd like tell you to come here, like do this. Yeah, so it's like a little opposite.
Yeah, that's
Peace
amazing.
signs. Yeah, that's not necessarily exclusive to South Koreans, but
In photos, eh?
in photos.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but I feel that sometimes you can tell when someone's had plastic surgery, you know, so you can tell when someone's had a nose job. You can tell, like, if they appear to be Asian, but they seem more Western looking, like they, you know, have gotten a nose job or, you know, they have double eyelid surgery or something like that. You can kind of tell that, to me, I think more so than other Asian countries, South Koreans tend to do those operations more.
Yeah.
So for example, like if I were to see someone on the street and I think like, you know, they've got kind of maybe a wider face or a flatter nose, I might think like, oh, this person could be Chinese or they could be Vietnamese maybe, but they wouldn't be South Korean.
This is so cool to hear and to listen to. And I love that you're going off what you've noticed, but you're also going off cultures that are geographically close to Korea and kind of creating this kind of feeling or vibe and impression more than anything else.
When I was in college, I lived and studied with a bunch of Chinese guys. And so
Yeah.
like, that culture's, you know, known to be. And then Japanese culture, I feel like, is just, it's really kind of they really push their culture out to the world. So you get exposed to that, especially in America. So like those are my touchstones. And like
Right.
much in the same way, it was like, well, what is Austria like? And it's like, well, it's next to France and it's next to Germany. And it's next to Italy, so that's probably what Austria's like, right? Somewhere in the middle there. You look at Korea. Korea's like, okay, well, there's North Korea, then there's China, and then there's Japan.
Right.
And if you know a little bit of Asian history, how does a lot of culture move around? Through invasion and war, right? And so
Right.
like these cultures, a lot of times were the people there was trade and war going on with. So that's where this cultural exchange.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to hear this because I've been living in Korea for 10 years. It's been great to hear just your impressions. What's been impressed upon you?
Oh, sharp dressers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good dressing. Yeah, good dressing. Great makeup.
So you mentioned you grew up with Koreans. Like, I'm wondering, did anything impact you in that regard? Did you notice anything?
Yeah, so when I was like very small, like maybe like 7-ish, I had a Korean family as neighbors. And so there was a girl and a boy, and I played with them all the time. One thing, I guess I didn't notice this at the time, but like looking back, like the focus on education and family was really distinct and similar to my Indian culture.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Asia, I think those two things are pretty important.
Strong, yeah.
Yeah. And then I did get, I got homemade food from them too, so.
Sick.
Yeah. My favorite is, I don't know how to pronounce it, but sundubu jjigae.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
pronounce
make it.
really
good,
well, yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I try to make it. And I make the kelp and anchovy broth and everything, and I think it's pretty good. I think I've got a pretty good recipe.
All right.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe we have to test it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your sister's really into K-pop.
She is. I don't know a whole lot about it, but she's always telling me how much she likes this. But she gets very excited about it.
That's pretty interesting that in like the US, pretty much everyone knows at least one person that is a huge fan of either Korean dramas, movies, or music.
Yeah, but that's another thing. I mean, when did that whole thing come on the scene? Like, all of a sudden, it seemed like 5 years ago, you saw like Korean performers everywhere. But surprising for such a small country, like I said, to have such a big export in the entertainment business. Not sure how they pull that off, but...
Because humans are their resource. Not as much natural resource, so they create powerful humans. So we were talking earlier, your family is actually from Tamil Nadu, right?
Yes.
And I was hearing and looking on the internet, there's actually a lot of similar words between Tamil and Korean, right? Maybe you don't know all of them now, but we were saying like how to say me in Tamil is like na, same in Korean. It's kind of an interesting side note.
Yeah, and then
Connection.
Konjum is the other one that was notable.
Yeah.
Like the little bit.
Yeah, jokum.
Yeah.
And how about like sister?
Anni is sister-in-law, sister.
Anni, yeah.
Yeah, and then Amma is mother.
Amma. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. There's like already another YouTube video going over this in depth, like a comparison. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I didn't know about it until recently. So I think they're learning more about like why there's a connection. So hopefully we'll learn more.
Most of my exposure has been just through like watching K-dramas or watching the K-pop music videos.
Nice. Have
So
you watched K-dramas?
The one I just finished was Extraordinary Attorney Woo.
Yeah, nice.
Loved it. Great show. I feel like I'm picking up a little bit on the Korean language. I don't think I would have been able to distinguish like some of the different languages before, but now I feel like I've listened to it enough.
How does Korean sound to you?
Really lovely. I wish I could speak it. I don't know. I was trying to explain this the other day, but I feel like it just kind of flows. Like there's like a melody to it, and it feels very quick to me, but also probably because, it's a different language, and so English probably feels quick to other people, but yeah, it just sounds really lovely. It sounds really beautiful. It almost sounds like a melody to me. English sounds more harsh, maybe.
Oh, and another thing is about the intelligence. I just think it's amazing that a king or somebody invented an alphabet. I'm a big fan of knowing about the alphabet, knowing about like how did anybody invent an alphabet to put like sounds into symbols. It's not that easy, and especially something that's contained in like less than 30 letters or whatever. I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah.
I just find that they must have a unique history in that sense. I'm aware that, there's competition and there's probably been a whole lot of people running each other over like everywhere in the world. So there's like a very, I think, developed sense of identity because of that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, because historically South Korea has been invaded. Japan, China, they've been at war a lot. We're still at war. So it's like really got to stick together.
Right. That's what I feel like. There's a lot of unity, like a kind of a community response to things.
Yeah.
And, it's a shame, but it depends on geography if you get run over or not by other people.
It's a tough place to spawn in the video game of life, right? Geographically speaking, that is. Well, it's been a delight talking to you, dear mother. I really enjoyed hearing your thoughts. And all right. See ya.
All right.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you later. I'm done torturing you.
Mildang.
Yeah. See you later.
안녕하세요.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
All right. See ya. Bye. So when I first came to Korea, I didn't speak any Korean. I had to teach myself Korean. I started learning how to read and write. Then I learned the 100 most commonly used verbs in Korean. You know, things like 먹다, 하다, 쓰다, these kinds of verbs. I eventually started listening to easy conversations, easy dialogues in Korean. And let me tell you, this was the most helpful thing I did. If you're learning English, it's really important to listen to real conversations where you can hear useful expressions, useful words, useful grammar, and natural pronunciation. That's why I made 션의 살아있는 영어. I came up with a list of extremely useful conversational English questions, answers to these questions, and other expressions. I explain all of these expressions in detail in Korean. I give you several example sentences showing you how to use the expressions, and then, this is the best part, I go out into the streets and interview extremely fluent and native English speakers using these expressions so you can see in real time, living, breathing English, how it's used and how to respond naturally to everything. This is the course I wish I had when I was studying Korean. This course is perfect for people preparing for working holiday, studying abroad, traveling abroad, meeting foreign friends, meeting your foreign romantic partner's family. So far, people are loving it. To see a free sample lesson, click the link down below. Alright everyone, that's all I have for this video. Did you enjoy it? If so, please let me know in the comments down below. Once again, I'm Sean, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.